What is good? We're back, ready to roll. We got our guy JB back. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. I love your intro. It always gets me going. I'm ready to rock and roll. And you know, you said before we went on the air here, I do have the sniffles. I swear, like, your listeners are gonna be like, this dude is always sick. Only whenever I'm a guest on your show. Normally I'm okay.
Healthy guy.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
The kids knock up the germ count, you know?
Dude, they're just like coughing in your face whenever they get at school. But yeah, I'm excited to be on here. I'm ready to talk rookies and whatever else you want to throw at me.
Cool. Well, where can we find JB's work and efforts at?
Yeah, on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, at the Bauer Club, Dynasty Theory Podcast at Dynasty Theory FF. We got the Patreon. We got our Dynasty tiers that I'm updating constantly. The rookie data that, you know, you and your listeners know I'm a spreadsheet kind of guy. So that's obviously the spin I put on it. We're in our Discord pretty much nonstop from when I wake up to when I go to bed. Like, I'm always available. So I said I've very few hobbies in life. Fantasy football, it's a big one for me.
Yeah. And, you know, apparently booger sugar, because it's not it's a Colombian cold, you know.
that is not true. That is, but the fantasy football aspect is certainly true.
Yes. He's a statesman, this JB. All right, so we're coming around. It's off season. We got JB back. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him through the off season. A little easier to track people down right now. So first guest of the year. Happy New Year. Fresh crack for you. So today we're going to kind of talk about how to value first round rookie picks, where we're at with some of them, and then we're going to compare them to some veterans in the league. So hopefully it'll be a fun show. Are you ready to go, JB?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. If we're talking SuperFlex tight end premium, would you say that like the top 7 is a cutoff, being Caleb, Marvin Harrison, Drake Maye, Daniels, Nabers, Odunze, and Brock Bauer?
Yeah, spot on. Once we get past those first 7, and here's the thing too. I think I have 1 or 2 leagues where the rookie draft is before the NFL draft, and you always have to weigh the risk. And typically we have a few running backs, 1 or 2 that will be floating in that range. But this year, the way things are shaping up, it's those 3 high-end quarterbacks. Do we get a Penix? Do we get a Nix?
Right.
Do they fill out that first round? But there were very few question marks on those 3 quarterbacks you mentioned. And then the Marvin Harrison, Odunze, Nabers, Bowers, like they're all like, we could see 6 fantasy relevant players kick off the actual NFL draft.
Right.
Like that is absolutely wild. And we're not going to see Nabers or Odunze slip maybe outside the top 10 for Nabers and 15 for Odunze. And then we get a few other guys trickling in. There's no concern right now with those top 7, like you mentioned. So there's that safety. There is that ceiling for pretty much all 7 of them, and that's where the rookie drafts really start. Then,
right. We just did a mock, and that's what Foreman said. Mock draft starts at 8, basically, right now.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna see through. It would be fun to keep track in all of our dynasty leagues. If it's 12 teams, SuperFlex, tight end premium, I don't think we get much variance in terms of the 7 names to start the draft. Sure, we'll get a Harrison at 1, a Caleb at 1.
Sure.
Maybe somebody likes the upside in Jayden Daniels, Brock Bowers, if it's a really high tight end premium, whatever. But at 108, that's when it gets really interesting. And your 108 might be my 205.
Correct. Yes.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's where opportunities really present themselves, and you can kind of take advantage of the overall market and how you see mocks playing out, maybe I can move back and I know I can still get that guy I want, or maybe I have to move up because same thing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get that guy, and there's a very good chance he might be going. So yeah.
Well,
top 7.
Let's talk about inside that top 7. Then I think there's maybe then a couple of little mini tiers. Then maybe Caleb and Marvin Harrison maybe making their own tier. Or do you have somebody else in there?
I actually right now I have Marvin, Caleb, Drake, and Jayden
all kind of tied up
in the top tier together. I think Jayden Daniels gives you that unique, upside play, a la Anthony Richardson. Obviously, differences in their games. I think Jayden Daniels is a little more polished coming out. Marvin Harrison, he somebody in our Discord asked, "Hey, is Marvin Harrison going to be one of these guys that really could break fantasy?" He doesn't need to pay off at this early price tag,
right?
That floor is so safe in my opinion. But the ceiling, sure, he could be a Chase. He could Lamb, Justin Jefferson. He is right there. And then Drake Maye, I think he regressed a little bit during the 23 season, but I think he lands in Washington, and with Terry McLaurin, I know there's going to be some offensive line issues they need to work out.
Sure.
But then I think from a head coaching perspective, they bring somebody that's an offensive mind in.
Right.
They had Ron Rivera, by all accounts, a great guy.
Yeah.
Just kind of an average coach, nothing sexy.
Right.
And with the way the game is going now, if you compare Drake Maye with Terry McLaurin, you have Brian Robinson, you have Jahan Dotson. If you can improve that offensive line and get a really offensive minded coach in there, I think Drake Maye is right there with like a Caleb Williams and then Jayden Daniels, like I mentioned.
Yeah, any other draft Drake Maye would be super. Everyone would be super excited about Maye and Daniels, but there, you have the Caleb in here, who I think right now is suffering just from being too good for too long. And then
prospect fatigue.
Right. Right.
Yep.
So people are starting to question and trying to find any crack they can to say, let me jump this guy ahead. And I think we're probably a little closer together. Like, I think I might have a little gap in between Maye, Daniels, and maybe Nabers in there, but pretty close. I can definitely get down with what you're saying. So let's say in that top tier of that top 7, where would you? I know we're doing a blanket statement here, but like, what would the first round value? Because they're not just worth a first at this point. They're worth multiple firsts because like you said, all those factors that you stated in the opening there are all, pretty much, I don't know that they're really disputable. How much it's just, they're so safe. They're pretty much all going to be inside the top 10, the draft cap, everything you want's going to kind of be there. Is it like kind of the blanket statement of around 3 firsts for those guys? If we're just talking firsts.
Yeah, I mean, like if we would put it into like a 2025 lens, and unless it's a team that it's an absolute tank job and you're like, okay, I know that's going to be the 101 or 102. Mm-hmm. If it's a mid and too late, like I still might prefer Marvin Harrison, so I think the 3 late first kind of discussion, it's there for all of these guys. And honestly, once we move further along, like quarterbacks are the one position I kind of wait until the NFL draft to really, like, I don't really dive in all that much. I used to spend some more time on it, but even with like pre-draft profiles with certain thresholds and things that I'm looking at, the NFL draft capital, it is important. You look at the last 8 quarterbacks in the fantasy playoffs, first rounders and Brock Purdy, so Brock Purdy is such a unique example. But you mentioned having Marvin and Caleb in
that Dak just got knocked out, but I mean, whatever.
I love Dak. I do. I love Dak. But as this progresses, the rookie process, I very well could have a Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels split off from Harrison and Caleb, who I would have above them. Yeah. And then we work our way down to like 105 to 107 with Brock, Malik Nabers, and Rome Odunze. I think then it's like I would move 109 in this year's draft and 112 to get up to 105.
Yeah.
So
Right.
now we're talking 2 firsts.
Right.
So I think it goes kind of like 2.5, 3 firsts for the 3 firsts for the 101, 102. As I'm talking through this, I think in the sheets, I'm going to be splitting this tier up.
Right.
It's kind of easy to say, okay, these guys are grouped together, but when push comes to shove, and in a startup I just took part in, we're wrapping it up. The 101 went 112.
Mm-hmm.
The 102 went 201.
Okay, so you're drafting the rookie picks. Yep.
Yes. And then the 103 went beginning of the 3rd. So based on market, there is that gap there.
Yeah.
So this is why I like having these conversations with you guys.
This is why, it's a very, we've been working on rankings, and we just did a Patreon show, and we basically did a whole 45 minutes. We didn't even rank anybody, me and Big D, and we just basically talked about the theory of how to rank these guys and what is it based on and what's going into play. And there's always double talk when you're in rankings of just you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're giving guys credit for this, and then you're taking it away for the same thing over. So it's having these conversations, like you said, I think is the most important part.
Yeah, and that tier break then with the 105 to 107 and then the 108. Like right now, I have 108 being Xavier Worthy. Mm-hmm. I think I don't think he gets first round draft capital. I think he's going to go super early in the second.
His arrow is kind of going in the wrong direction. It seems like for draft capital.
A little bit,
right? And it may peak back up, but it just seemed like AD Mitchell was going this way and Worthy was kind of going that way. It seemed, near the end of that Texas run.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, as we talk about all these different thresholds and metrics throughout their collegiate careers, Mitchell, actually, I've soured on him quite a bit based on more research. Keon Coleman, somebody that I'm not going to have very many shares of.
I knew that if we ever got to him, that wasn't going to be a. And I don't know that I necessarily disagree. I think it's risky. I think it's fun. It'll be depending on where the market decides to land on him. If it's 112, then hey, and I earn the 112, then maybe I do take a shot on Keon Coleman. But TBD.
Yeah, there's so many things that the way this shakes out, we're probably going to get a running back based on people's team needs. They might like the landing spot, maybe a good, solid draft capital. If somebody goes end of the second in the NFL draft, probably see a running back go 108, 109. It gets pushed up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right now, I have my top running backs in that 112 to 205 tier in 12 team SuperFlex tight end premium. But if I have the 108, I would be willing to pay 204, 205 just to move up that one spot to 107.
Yeah,
because I
think it's going to cost you more than that too. I don't even know if anybody's going to do that because
I'll get out there and try.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I think that's definitely the offers kind of things that you should be sending out, because I do think that we'll fall in love with some people from 108 to 202, and there's a whole bunch of guys in the 204 to 212 range that I really like right now, and some of those guys will fall to the 4th round in your rookie drafts, and there'll be guys that climb up because that's just how this process goes. We're early on.
There's like my 206 to 211 tier. Like there's some guys that I could be very interested in, and it speaks to the depth of this class. But again, it's just January.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up and build this hype and these expectations. And we had somebody in the chat, I love talking to you guys because my mind's racing. I have so many things I want to say. I haven't done a guest spot in, I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So not that I'm stuck talking to Dan and Mitch all the time, but it's nice to talk to somebody else for a while.
Right.
We had somebody in our Discord, one of our patrons, say that 112 to 205 tier, it doesn't really look that appealing right now. Not really thrilled with anybody in that range. And I said Devon Achane at this time last year was in that range. Sam Laporta, even in tight end premium, was in that range. So let the process play out.
Rashee Rice wasn't even in that range.
He was lower for me. Guilty.
Right. I mean, especially at that point in the year, at this point in the year, Rashee was end of the second. Toot my own. We were a little higher on Rashee, but not, crazy. But but so
Puka who?
Oh, sure.
So yeah, I think as the combine comes around and rookie draft fever really hits, like once we head into March, those late first, early seconds, even mid seconds are going to start to gain value.
Yeah.
And as we get a little further away from the end of the 23 season, and veterans continue to slip in value, it's
right.
It's always
kind of how that
dynamic.
goes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good segue. Let's now talk about some of these top 7 guys, and let's talk about them against right now as we're feeling. Again, all this is going to change somewhat, but I do feel pretty confident about that top 7. Let's put them up against some veterans, some younger veterans here. So we were just talking Rashee Rice. Let's put Rashee Rice and let's go up against Odunze with Rashee Rice. I don't know where you stand on a lot of these guys, so it could be quick answers but where are we at here with? I'd go Odunze. I'd go unknown here and go Odunze. But I also really like Odunze, and I feel like some people have a big gap between him and Nabers, and I don't know that my gap is that big.
They are the same tier for me, and when I talk about my rookie research and the rookie data with wide receivers, just going back to 2017, I say just because with running backs and tight ends, I have data back to 2003 for them with the different thresholds I'm looking for these guys to hit. And it's not necessarily rankings, but do they fall in certain buckets? And it kind of gets into the hit rates and all that stuff based on different variables and metrics. But Odunze and Nabers, they check off as many boxes as Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
Am I saying I value them the same? No, I have Harrison ahead of them, but Odunze is going to get the first round draft capital.
Yeah.
He's got that early declare, reception market share, receiving yard market share, receiving yards per team pass attempt, contested target percentage in his final year under 20%. Not incredible, but he gets open enough.
Right.
College dominator, 33%. Broke out at the age of 19. He cleared the 30% breakout at the age of 21. He's going to run sub 4.4, height adjusted speed score, 99th percentile. This kid, the ceiling is there. And I actually have, with all that, I have Rashee Rice tiered with the 107 right now, which would be
right
that Brock, Malik, Rome tier. Mm-hmm. But if you look at a player like Rashee Rice, I think a lot of his touches here in Kansas City in his rookie year were kind of manufactured. A lot of things were, I think his ADOT was like 5.5 yards, one of the lowest across the NFL with players that got his volume. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to pull they had Travis Kelce and nobody else at receiver. Because then that gets you in trouble with like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mm-hmm. Well, look what Amon-Ra St. Brown did whenever, these guys were out. So I don't want to hold that against Rashee Rice, but I think the ADOT and the overall ceiling favors Odunze, and I don't know that his floor is necessarily going to be that much lower than Rashee Rice. Even though I think Rice does have a safer floor, I don't think Rashee Rice can catapult himself up to a top 10 dynasty receiver. Odunze very well could.
Yeah, I think that's a really well put. And and you said you don't want to cast too big of a I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but basically saying that you don't want to say that they didn't have anybody else and yada yada yada. But I mean, I can almost see no way that the Kansas City Chiefs at the very least don't draft one high receiver either in the first or second round. Has that worked out for them every time? No, but they kind of hit one here. And now we have a decision to make with Rashee Rice, right? Are we buying in that he is now going to be growing, getting better, and being attached to Patrick Mahomes, and now he's the kind of the first new guy in the new Patrick Mahomes era, because Kelce is 34 and seems the first time we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown from him, possibly. And I just, do they add, a Brian Thomas Jr. end of the first, and then do they draft another one in the third, or do they add a veteran like Hollywood Brown, or just go out and figure out a way to, they have to add two pass catchers to this offense. Like at least I would think. Like you have the best quarterback in the league. So you kind of have to make a decision. Are you going to rank Rashee Rice that high, or are you going to try to kind of swap him out for somebody you might feel a little bit more comfortable with a bigger ceiling? And I'm not really sure. I think it's got to be Odunze over Rashee for me in this particular instance. All right, so we both agreed with Odunze over Rice. How about JSN? Now, I don't know if you've moved Rice over JSN, so maybe this is not a great question, but I think at the very least for me, those guys remain in the same tier. I'm not backing off of how good JSN was. You kind of knew what the situation was going in and some injuries, so I've kind of kept Rashee Rice, and Rashee's obviously gone up, and JSN is maybe tiered down a hair, but I still really like him. So is this no contest for you?
Yeah, I actually did move Jaxon, Smith-Njigba down one tier when you compare him to Rashee Rice. And we just talked about him on last week's episode. And, I had all my yards per route run comparisons going back so many years. The only receiver, like there were like 7 or 8 receivers that with his volume had a yards per route run as low as he did that ended up being fantasy relevant. It was DeAndre Hopkins, looking at their rookie years, like Hopkins, the yards per route run was like 1 point, let's say 3 or 1.4. And I just don't know if Jaxon, Smith-Njigba is DeAndre Hopkins, certainly different profiles. And even though I think we see a little uptick in value for JSN, because I do believe that Seattle goes after a more offensive-minded head coach. Right. I think they open things up. I really like Geno Smith as a buy right now. But for JSN, unless things really change with it's kind of similar to the Rashee Rice, like a lot of manufactured touches, JSN, a lot of low A-dot throws. Yeah. They very well could move on from Tyler Lockett, but JSN, I would not take him over Rome Odunze, Malik Nabers, and obviously certainly Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. All right. How about let's try to get one that maybe Nico Collins, Nico or Odunze. And I don't know where you stand on any of these guys, or maybe Olave. Let's go Olave or Odunze.
I will go Olave.
Okay.
That one, I have Olave in the tier above Odunze. One thing you look at with Olave 2 years in a row now, you look at his unrealized air yards. And I know he's probably going to have Derek Carr here again in 2024.
Things were improving at the end, though, with him and Derek Carr a little bit there, yeah.
So when Olave was healthy, when Derek Carr was healthy, Olave, he gives them – he can kind of do a little bit of everything, and he gives them that deep ball threat as well. Yeah. Like I said, the unrealized air yards, they're going to get realized eventually. Right. And you're going to start to cash in. And for me, I will take Olave. Nico Collins is the interesting one. Those first 2 years were so, he was a little injured in 2022, but 2021 was dreadful. Not great in 2022. And then, of course, it takes Slowick as the OC, and CJ Stroud probably has a little something to do with it, with the way he's performed. But Nico Collins just been absolutely tremendous. Here's the thing with Nico Collins. Because of what we saw his first 2 years, even though now he's tied to CJ Stroud, his value, I think, is a little bit more fragile than somebody like with the high pedigree like a Rome Odunze. So push comes to shove, I'll take Odunze. I still really like Nico Collins, and I feel like a lot of folks are going to come out this offseason and say, well, a lot of the stuff he did, it was when Tank Dell was out. If you look at the splits, they really weren't all that different. Yeah. And the one game, CJ Stroud, he was out 2 games, one where Nico was out as well. But if you take that game away where it wasn't CJ Stroud at quarterback with Nico Collins, it was like maybe a 1.5 point per game difference whenever Tank Dell was in and out. So if that's going to be used against him, and I can get Nico at a discount. I have him in green on the sheets, meaning in my tiers, I have him as a buy. According to Fantasy Calc, where it's based on actual trades, he's ranked wide receiver 26. That's too low for me.
Yeah.
That's too low.
Way too low. Way too low there. You know, as long as you're not citing that homeless shelter of a site, keep trade cut or whatever it is, you know.
So I actually, I think it's absolute garbage. I'll be honest, but it's interesting because, like, obviously it's based on inputs, and you get funky things in there all the time.
Right.
Like Tajay Spears right now is running back 13 on there. I saw that the other day, and I like Tajay. But running back 13 is a little crazy, but it's so quick with overreactions. It's interesting to see, but it's not based on actual trades. Whereas Fantasy Calc pulls in the actual trades, and you don't know the caliber of the leagues if they're, not to say free leagues and cheap leagues can't be competitive, because they can be, but there is an asterisk there. But I like to see what these guys are actually going for, not based on three inputs of keep trade cut that absolutely have no
You just,
I don't want repercussions.
Right. I want to get to the things. I'm gonna click these three buttons. Yeah.
I agree with you there. The data's trash.
Yeah. All right. Let's go one more on a different receiver. Let's go Puka and Nabers. I think, there's
how crazy is it that this is a discussion though?
It has to be I don't know. I'm hoping that you are in on this. Like, you're not just, I don't know how long it took you to come all around on Puka, because you're one of those sheets guys.
Hey. No, so actually, and there's tinkering, trying to refine the process, of course, but Puka Nacua, even with where he was drafted from 2017 to 2023, he came in at the 81st percentile for me. And again, this is after tinkering, so I'm not saying he was there coming into rookie drafts. But whenever the price went up to like a late first, I was in there buying.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say I came around fairly quickly, not fourth round rookie draft quickly, not waiver wire quick, but I mean, an absolutely historic season. Already an outlier based on the draft capital. How upset would we be with ourselves if we looked at Amon-Ra St. Brown after his rookie year and let's just cash out for, this is a solid return.
Right. There were some people saying cash out on Amon-Ra this past offseason. So I'm just, guys, sometimes players like that take, Brock Purdy, for example, I think took a very long time. And some people still are just waiting for the demise of, I think, Puka and if you've stayed a hater. So, I didn't know, but I almost think I'm on Team Puka here, but I don't know. I guess there's some unknown with where Nabers is going to end up. I guess maybe if he ends up in LA, that, and tied to Herbert, then maybe I might have to reevaluate. I guess
what if he's a New York Giant?
Nabers?
Yeah.
I feel like then you're just on that DJ Moore trajectory, like good player, but hard to really reach his potential. Maybe, I don't know.
Push comes to shove right now, I'll take Puka straight up.
How worried are you about the situation? Like how long Stafford plays and all that? Like, because for me personally, I understand what you're saying. The Rams aren't just going to sit around and start Wentz and ripping. Like, they're going to go find a solution to the problem. Like, if there's anything the Rams do, it's like they'll go try to figure out the solution to the problem, and they're not scared to pay for it. So, I don't think I'm terribly worried about that. The scheme fits him to a T. They nailed it with the exact fit and template of exactly what they want. So as long as McVay's around, I'm cool, which, winning cures everything. They were supposed to be a dumpster fire, and now look at the trajectory where you're at. Unfortunately for my San Francisco 49ers, we're going to have to deal with the Rams a lot sooner.
Yeah, I actually just brought this up on our episode tonight of Dynasty Theory. Dan and I were talking, and the Seahawks this year to me feel a little bit like a year behind the Rams. Like Stafford, he comes in, they win the Super Bowl, obviously, and then in 2022, the expectations were so high for the Rams, and injuries and all that stuff, they crapped the bed. And then they had that post-hype resurgence here in 2023. 2 years ago, Geno Smith out of nowhere. Offense looks great. They're coming along. Geno Smith gets a contract. 2023, Seahawks left a lot to be desired.
Right.
Now I think in 24, we see a little bit of that uptick, and we see that post-hype, I don't want to say resurgence, but they play a little bit closer to what they did in 22.
Unless they hire Dan Quinn. I really hope they don't. I mean, I'm a Niners fan, so I hope they hire Dan Quinn, but I really like for fantasy and the league and all that, like just like, can we, and I'm not necessarily against defensive coaches, but like just, at the worst, bring back the guy who's in Tampa right now. That was their quarterback's coaching in their system for a long time. I'm drawing a blank on Canales. At the very worst, bring back him and give him a shot. Like, I mean, just give me something, fresh. Because we had the exact same conversation that you were citing a little earlier, that you think they're going to go in a different direction. Our guy Big D is a Seahawks fan, lives in Seattle, and I think they're going to go in a different direction too. We're going to open that offense up. They were a conservative team. They played defense. Fourth quarter, if we got to open it up, hey, that's when we're going to try to maybe be a little bit more aggressive. So I agreed in a lot of that.
In 2023, they were actually one of the highest pass to run ratios in the league, but they only ran 59 offensive plays per game.
Yeah.
Which was tied for dead last in the
pace,
NFL.
What's that pace got to be?
Glacial.
Yeah. Right. All right. Let's keep it moving here.
Wait, so we're talking about Puka versus Nabers, and I ended up on Geno Smith somehow.
That's the essence of what we do. So I know.
But yeah, give me Puka.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, let's try to get a little bit of tight end and wide receiver, and then we'll switch to another little show and talk about some sleepers.
Yeah.
All right, let's go Bowers, and I think we've done this. We've done a lot of this stuff before, but as things change, and it wasn't with JB. Bowers or McBride?
I'm going to go Trey McBride. He's another one. If you wrote him off,
hold on. Where's Brock Bowers in your high and your? I don't need you to give away the farm of your rankings if you don't want to, but like, he's up there with Hawkinson and Andrews maybe? I don't know where you have Andrews at this point.
As things stand right now, and it's tough. It's tough because with Hawkinson, he has the season-ending injury. Sure. How long is he going to be out in 2024? Obviously, his value is a little bit depressed, but I'd want a healthy Hawkinson. I want Laporta. I'll take Trey McBride over Bowers today. Now.
Okay.
If Bowers lands in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert, I got to move Brock Bowers up.
Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, and Brock Bowers.
I mean that's that's it right there.
That is.
But yes, I am taking McBride and Laporta over Brock Bowers today. The Hawkinson and Andrews, I think that's close for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think I tend to agree there. Tight ends are a fickle bunch. We're getting more and more tight ends spread across the landscape that are seeming to be a whole lot more fun. And McBride, big fans of him over here all off season, and it was nice to see that one work out. You shoot enough, you get one right. Are you concerned at all about McBride with any rookies or other wide receivers coming in because he was the target share was? Are you afraid of that affecting his target share with Kyler?
Overall, I'm not, because you look at, and I don't want to sound like a film guy at all, but if you actually watch the way he played, some of the catches he had, they were incredible.
Yeah.
He was
awesome.
He wasn't making just these ticky tack dink and dunk. He was down the field acting like a field stretcher when Hollywood Brown was rendered useless, which threw me for a loop because
he was injured. there.
Right. And then he went on IR at the very end of the year. Was it the heel injury?
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah. But he had been dealing with that for a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
You look back at his pre-draft profile. I was very high on Trey McBride, and
90 catches, I think, at Colorado State the year before he came out.
That rookie season just left so much to be desired, and to an extent, it kind of reminds me of a Michael Mayer type situation. I think Michael Mayer is going to be a nice buy here.
Yeah.
Heading into his year 2. But whether it's yards per route run, any efficiency metrics, Trey McBride, I think he's going to continue down this path.
I agree. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up in there. I think maybe it hurts a little bit because I think he's going to command a high target share. But, I agree.
But also, you have to think he only had 3 touchdowns here all year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that might be, partly because the sustained drives, they just weren't there.
Yeah.
So if you add these other weapons, the piece of the pie is a little bit smaller, but I think the pie might get bigger in terms of opportunities.
Sure. I think that's a good positive outlook there. I like that. And
Listen, I think new year, new John. I'm more optimistic.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it can be accurate, and I don't think that the Cardinals are going to stay a dumpster fire. I think this is a team that they played their ass off for most of the year in most of those games, and I just don't think they had enough pieces to sustain for 4 quarters. But through 3 quarters, they'd give you a hell of a dogfight, and then usually fall apart a little bit there at the end. So I think this is a pretty quick turnaround for a pretty solid team, and I thought Kyle looked pretty good there at the end. So
isn't it funny, coming into the year, there was that little video of Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray, and he's like, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
Such an awkward dude, and everyone's like, this is going to be horrendous. But that team busted their ass all year. Mm-hmm. And maybe it wasn't necessarily because of him,
right?
But
it's got to be something. Yeah,
I thought he came across very well as the season played along.
Yeah, agreed. Very much so. I think you could be looking at obviously it's not it's not going to be a Houston Texans situation because they're not having all that changeover, but I think they can rise and be competitive, in that division in a year. So, all right, let's do one quarterback before we get out of here. And you can, I don't know where you have Maye or Daniel, so you can take this either way. Let's go Jordan Love or Drake Maye.
Give me Jordan Love.
Really?
I saw it. I saw enough.
That's hot fire there.
And this is not I've been in on Jordan Love since day one. No, but I've been on the show with you guys before, and I've talked about whether it's wide receiver, quarterback, running back, touchdown rates. He was only at 5.5%, which is very strong, but not necessarily unsustainable. Probably comes down a little bit moving forward, but look at the weapons he had and how many question marks there were. And this is a young team that can build and
all grow together.
Yeah. So for me,
dangerous.
At this point, you are hoping Drake Maye ever puts together a Jordan Love 2023 season. You're hoping. Wow. So for me, give me Jordan Love over Drake Maye.
I don't know about this one. I've been bouncing this one back and forth in my head all day long, and I don't know if I don't want to fall into recency bias with Love here a little bit, but damn, he has looked, just from beginning to end of the season, the growth that you've seen from Jordan Love and him getting comfortable, and the offensive line's been mixed and matched throughout the season, and Aaron Jones wasn't available for chunks of the season, and still just continuing to grow. LaFleur finally getting to do what he does and run his offense, because Aaron Rodgers was you can't run what LaFleur wants to run with Aaron Rodgers in there. You got to kind of figure out how to operate Aaron Rodgers. So I think I'm going to go with Maye or Daniels here, but it's way it's close, and it's been a battle all day.
Over his last 9 games, Jordan Love has 21 touchdowns and 1 interception.
That is insane. But how many interceptable balls? I'm just kidding. I don't give a shit.
Are we talking about Jordan? Are we talking about Jordan Love or Brock Purdy now? Because that's a big thing. Brock Purdy.
All right, Brock Purdy or Drake Maye?
Brock Purdy.
Oh, all right. I thought this was going to be way more lopsided.
I again, like, you could sit here and say Brock Purdy is a system quarterback.
They're all fucking system quarterbacks.
How you might be able to name 2, maybe 3 that really, truly elevate everybody around them. Like, I don't care if Brock Purdy's a system quarterback or not.
Right.
It's the system he's in. Who cares?
Right.
And like you said, so many people, they have that tweet saved in their drafts for when Brock Purdy struggles and that they hit send. They're like, I've been waiting for this day. I got it. Because they were out on him initially, which I was. I mean, he's Mr. Irrelevant.
Sure.
But then they didn't get him for cheap when they were able to. Mm-hmm. And now because of that, they just want to bash him or find anything wrong with him. Like, I think he has been like, he had some struggles along the way. Sure.
Yeah.
But every single quarterback has had struggles along the way. And, I'll take Brock Purdy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I especially, younger quarterbacks, that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be a system until they can be above the system and start, it's the best ones, Peyton Manning, it might be the outlier, but it even took a while for Peyton Manning to be the system. Tommy might have operated in that system for a while, but then became, it's just Aaron Rodgers, all those guys. It's just silly that the system thing gets thrown around almost as a negative. And it's like, if you can operate the system at a high level, that's what you're supposed to be doing until you're a pro's pro. And then you get carte blanche to kind of, hey, we're going to do this now. Cause I could, so. And
Shanahan's not going anywhere.
No.
So if that's the system, and especially, Brock's on his rookie contract through 2025. So you get 2 more seasons of this quarterback making minimal money, comparatively speaking. Mm-hmm. Like, you have that money at your disposal to get pieces around him.
Right.
I mean, sign me up.
Sure. All right. Well, let's try to find one that you might take Maye over then. Well, maybe not. I think I was going to say Kyler, but I think if you're taking those 2 guys, you're taking Kyler, right?
So there's 12 quarterbacks that I will take over Drake Maye. And it's Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, Stroud, Kyler, Purdy, Anthony Richardson, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott.
Okay.
And then I have him
Fields?
tiered. I have him tiered with Fields, Tua, and Lawrence. Fields, I mean, that ceiling is just so high.
Yeah.
And look at the state of the quarterback position.
Right.
If he doesn't start in Chicago, he's starting somewhere.
Yeah. The thing that knocks him down the tier for me is he's essentially seemingly like he's going to be in his second spot. And then if that second spot doesn't go accordingly as far as wins and losses, now you're at a spot where, hey, we got to go to a third spot and might have to wait a minute to get it. It's not about his fantasy production. That's going to be awesome.
Right.
So that's really kind of the way I feel about him. And I
agree with that.
So, all right. Well, that was a fun exercise. That was an interesting perspective there.
And can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Can I share something? While we were live here, while you were, I don't know what you were talking about, but I moved Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels 103, 104. I separated it from 101 and 102.
Nice.
And that is why, like you said, I like these types of exercises. It makes you think. You're talking about it. Could that change? Yeah. But as we sit here now, January 18th, Case, you showed me the way.
Yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure to bring you on to the FFD here, and we've missed you. So make sure you go check out JB. Where can we find you again at everything before we log off? So I'll be sure to like, subscribe, comment below, all that jazz. 5-star review on the podcast, Patreon, $5 Hada, yada yada yada. JB, hit me with it while on our way out.
Yeah, at the Bauer Club on Twitter. I'm not especially active on there because I am in our Discord constantly. The Dynasty Theory Patreon Discord. The Discord's free, and then we have the paid membership as well with all the extra goodies. And then the podcast at Dynasty Theory FF on Twitter. We put on an episode we try to. Every Tuesday night, we're live 9:00 Eastern time. Come check it out. I think you guys will enjoy the show.
Yeah, it's always fun to chat with JB. I do check in on what he's got going on from time to time, and they're operating at a high level over there. So make sure you go check that out. We very much appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next time. Peace.